Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Tennis Weekly with Joel, Kim, and Chris. On today's Tour Catch-Up,
Sinner hit with 3 months suspension.
Anisimova captures her first W1000 title.
And Novak Djokovic returns from injury in Doha.
Kim, Chris, today is the 17th of February, and we are here to catch up on the week in tennis at Tennis Weekly HQ. And what a week it has been with the breakout news over the weekend that Jannik Sinner has been handed a 3-month ban from tennis by the World Anti-Doping Agency WADA. Elsewhere, Amanda Anisimova won her first 1000 title, and teenage prodigy Joao Fonseca also won his first tour title in Argentina. The US Open have announced a radical change-up as well to the mixed doubles for this year's major in Flushing Meadow. Guys, it has just kicked off. It has kicked off left, right, and centre over the last few days.
We need some
It really
positive
has.
news, don't we?
I know. Where's the good news and
Where
the
to
good vibes?
turn? Where to turn?
Yes. You did
Argentina.
provide Argentina. Yeah, we'll get onto that later. I did enjoy listening to your emergency podcast that you did on the weekend. I mean, I don't know if enjoy is the right word. It was very informative, and I was nodding along to things that you were saying, and it does leave a nasty taste in your mouth, doesn't it? All the doping stuff and the fact he's negotiated a ban. Like that's for me is the tricky bit. I don't think's right.
Well, we are going to dissect and go into a little bit more detail because, there has been some continued fallout from the bombshell around Jannik Sinner at the weekend. But of course, we're going to be talking about all the tennis as well over the last week. It's still going on in the Middle East. The golden swing is golden swinging. And the mixed doubles, there is so much to talk about. But we do have to start with that Jannik Sinner news. And I guess, me and Chris, we have had our say over the weekend with our immediate reaction to the news that Jannik Sinner has been handed a 3-month ban. But Kim, what was your reaction? What were you thinking when you saw this news, breaking news, Saturday morning, waking up after a long week of work and seeing this bombshell news, the world number one is not going to be able to play tennis for the next 3 months?
Yeah, I have to say, I think I agree with. I mean, there's quite a lot of divided opinion, isn't there? Some Sinner fans, obviously, okay with it all, but I think a lot of people feel that it's a bit unfair, and a lot of other players. And I think you rightfully mentioned this in the podcast. There's certain other players that are not treated in this way, haven't been able to negotiate because they don't have that influence and financial support to get good lawyers on the case. And it doesn't sit right that you can negotiate down a ban. It should be something that, rules are rules and they are stuck to, and it shouldn't matter who you are, whether you're world number one or otherwise. There has been a comment from Daniel Medvedev, hasn't there, which I think kind of sums it up nicely in a way. He's said that I hope that from now on everyone can talk to WADA, and if they tell you we found this, it's 2 years, you answer, no, I want 1 month. Because, that's essentially what's happened. Sinner's been a bit jammy, really, and he's able to get away with it. It's minimal disruption to his year. He can still play a slam, even with a warm-up. And I don't know, I think when he returns, there's always going to be question marks, I think, over him.
I mean, what are you more annoyed about? Are you annoyed about, like, the timing or the length? Like, how if we kind
both,
of dissect it, what annoys you more, do you think?
Maybe maybe the length. Yeah, I don't know. Some
it's
players
both, isn't it? They're quite
got years
connected.
Of ban, and it's kind of jammy on all fronts. But I'm not saying he did intentionally dope or anything. Like, I'm not saying that, but I just think it's a really messy subject, and it just feels very unfair that people aren't being treated in the same way.
It does feel it's about the treatment, doesn't it? And I think actually we didn't have that as an option, Kim, did we? Was it a bit jammy? But we did ask our listeners what they thought about the length of the ban. And maybe this is also how you feel a little bit, Kim, that 63% said the ban should have been more or should have missed a slam. So maybe that's something, Kim, that you thought if it was a bit longer, there would have been a bit more repercussions in terms of the slams. But also what people said broadly, only 18% said he shouldn't be banned. And then about 20% said that it was about the right length. So broadly, people actually don't necessarily agree with this decision. They do think it should be longer. That's what the majority have said. But ban is what people thought should be happening.
Yeah, and we've also had news that Sinner was spotted practicing after the ban has like come into effect, which the ban itself stops him from doing any official training at official premises, but he has been in Doha practicing after the date that the ban began from, which just, I guess, maybe shows that he didn't know this was coming. It was all kind of negotiated through the lawyers, and it was all very maybe last minute that it was announced. And they've actually backdated the ban to the 9th of February. That's when it officially starts from. But I guess
he wanted to get an extra practice session in.
Yeah, he could fit in a bit more practice.
Yeah.
So that's, a lot of people may be saying, oh, why is he practicing? He's not allowed to be doing that. But like, obviously, we'll have to find a private facility to practice over the next 3 months, rather than obviously doing anything official. I'm sure he'll still
anyone
be
lend him a
picking up
tennis
racket
court
somewhere.
might be looking for one,
In your back garden.
Back garden,
Yeah.
he could build one. But I mean, it is strange that I think we talked about the timing. A lot of it is about the timing, the fact that it did start on the 9th, even though he didn't seem like he was made aware of it until later, potentially, the 13th, when he supposedly has gone to the tournament director and actually informed them, I have to pull out of the tournament because I'm banned, which must have been, I mean, quite a shocking conversation for the tournament director in Qatar. I'm not sure they'd have had that before, that a number one has told them, I'm actually not allowed to play anymore. So not great for that tournament. And they must have thought, why couldn't you have waited a week later and not played Rome and played Qatar? But that's not what happened. So a lot of people were asking that question. Why was he able to practice and practice with other ATP players when he was banned? But the consensus is he did not know, and this happened quite quickly, that this was actually agreed upon. He did not know the terms of it necessarily. But it did catch the eye and the attention of Tara Moore. And those of you who aren't familiar with this case, she's a British tennis player, primarily a doubles player. And it was a case of contaminated meat, but a very, very long wait for her, very long time for an appeal to be heard. And she actually lost 19 months of her career to the fact that she wasn't able to play before it was ruled that she was able to return to the court. So very frustrating time for her and a huge disruption to her career. But she said, when she saw the fact that Jannik Sinner was playing, that it really did affect her, because when she was banned, someone reported her for having trained at an official facility, and this was the National Tennis Center, and that's right by the ITIA headquarters. And actually, she wasn't even her. She was literally in the States, not playing tennis. And so she did say that she thinks it was just someone who was Asian was reported for being there. So It does feel like there's a level of scrutiny that is applied to some people, whereas backdating it to a time when there is video evidence of him practicing, you do think, was this connected to playing Rome, and was this part of the negotiation? And that's just such a shame, because
Rome conspiracies begin.
It does. And I mean, you can't really get around the fact that it does feel like it is one interpretation of the rule for another, and then a very firm hand on the other side of things. And I think the PTPA also seemed to agree with that. Don't know if you saw their statement.
Yeah, they've come out saying that the system is not a system, it's a club. Supposed case-by-case discretion is in fact merely cover for tailored deals, unfair treatment and inconsistent rulings, which I have to say, I've not always agreed with everything the PTPA have come out and said, but I think this is quite a fair statement from them, that it is inconsistent and unfair, and it needs to be clarified. There needs to be some kind of consistency, and I think a clarification on the rules, which I believe WADA are going to be working on, kind of having less vagueness in the rules, but it's not going to be for a couple of years. Is that right, Chris?
That is correct. So there are changes coming in 2027. These changes were not necessarily known at the time when they did appeal this. So this could also be linked, and there is a theory that this was linked to the fact the WADA did choose to initiate negotiations with Jannik Sinner around this, because of the fact that some of the ways and the levels of testing will be changing. So if trace amounts are present, then there will be a threshold now. So you can have positive or test positive, but not test positive, that's the point. You can have amounts in the system that won't record a positive test of banned substances. So that should alleviate some of the contamination, which then does get into this vague area of the rules around Who was it? Was it a third party? What does this actually look like in the rules, and what should the ban be? Having said this, there is also the question, if you up the threshold, you also up the ability for people to get around this. So it is also a strange thing to think that some people could have banned substances that they're returning in their tests, but we will never be made aware of it, and it will never be recorded as a positive test. So it's things like that that are coming in, which means that Jannik Sinner's lawyer could probably have argued that this wouldn't even be considered a positive test in 18 months, and the person who is behind this, the organization, is WADA, who's pushing this. So it does look like that could have been a reason why. But having said that, I mean, you never really know why these things do settle in the end. But I mean, we're left with, again, more questions than answers, Joel.
I do enjoy Liam Brodie, another British player, came out today and he just basically said, this feels like a footballer getting suspended over the summer break. And I thought that was such a great encapsulation of what I think a lot of people are feeling in relation to the timing, that I think is the thing that is most kind of angering people at the moment. And I sort of side with that. And who knows what's happening, but it just feels like a very murky situation. And another sort of story from it is, I was looking at the world number one scenarios, and if Alexander Zverev kind of pulls his finger out in the golden swing, we could be very close to something that does not happen very often on the ATP Tour, and that is a Grand Slamless world number one. There is only one other player who's done that, Marcelo Rios.
Do you want that title?
No, you don't. But
the WTA love it. It happens all the time.
It happens to WTA a lot. But this could lead to a situation where maybe even Zverev is world number one.
Gosh, that could well happen. We'll have to see. He is in action in the golden swing. But I think, none of it feels quite right. It hasn't been handled well. Our audience do agree. Like we said, Chris, we've put that vote out. And I mean, spare a thought for poor Stefano Battaglino. Probably butchered his name there, but he was banned for 4 years, I think, for the same substance.
Yes, it was.
And obviously, we don't know who he is. He's not a household name. And that, I think, sums up the disparity here entirely. That two players.
It can, and I would say, just on that quickly before we move on, is the fact that, you know, it wasn't necessarily exactly the same, but it was the same product. It was a similar trace amount in the system. It was put down to a massage with a cream that contained clostebol, but done by an official tournament, sort of a physio who came on to help. And again, it wasn't necessarily the exact same scenario, but people are pointing to this as an example of the fact that there is favoritism in the system. But having said that, they never actually produced the physio to say whether they did use it or not. So without that, there was no evidence that could say this was contamination. It was a story. So having them in your camp actually has maybe made it a bit easier for them to say, yes, I did do this. This was my responsibility. Whereas that person was missing for Stefano. So there's something to look into there if our listeners would like to. And if you would like to look at or listen to our episode where we covered this on Saturday when the news broke, it is on YouTube. It's also on all podcasting platforms. So do give that a listen if you'd like to know a little bit more in depth what our thoughts were. But is it time to move on, Kim?
Yes, I think we have time to move on because we've got lots. We've seen it out.
He's seen it out too.
But yeah, definitely worth a listen. Your podcast on the weekend for a deep, in-depth dive into it. But there's lots of other things that have caught our eye over the last week in slightly less dramatic fashion. I particularly like the cat that made its way onto court in Doha several times, may I add. Very cute cat strolling around the court. That was my highlight of the week. And I'm just, we've had birds occasionally. We've had insects and things. What other creatures could we see on a tennis court? I dread to think.
Well, we always get, I feel like pigeons or birds get trapped in centre court, just sort of circling around, not having no idea how to get out of through the roof.
And there's a falcon, isn't there, at Wimbledon supposed to deal with that?
Rufus.
Rufus, I think it is. Yeah. He's maybe not doing the right job then. If
Should
he's
go off to Doha.
yeah, maybe
Scare
he
away the
should get rid of the
cats.
cat. But I mean, the cat made it to round three, which is more than Sabalenka did. So people did think that was quite impressive.
Yes, no, I like the cat. Joel, what's caught your eye on the last week on tour?
Well, it's all been around Carlos Alcaraz because I don't know if you guys saw it. He scored the winner in the football in the Premier League for Everton
He's so
against Crystal
talented,
Palace.
isn't he?
Wow,
He's so talented.
He's in two
A
places at
man
once.
of many talents. He's in two places at once. He can play tennis. He can play football. Yes, no. Yeah, this is a Carlos Alcaraz who plays football. He's on loan at Everton from Flamengo, which is a club in South America.
Flamingo on the court could be quite
Oh,
nice.
that
But
sounds very exotic.
I just enjoyed seeing Carlos Alcaraz's name on the football score sheet and yeah, being a little bit confused and then being like, it's another Carlos Alcaraz.
Very common name, perhaps, in some circles.
Carlitos.
And Chris, what Carlitos? What about you, Chris?
Well, when you said Carlos Alcaraz, I thought, was it Carlos on a camel with a tennis racket, which I saw on my Instagram feed this morning? But no, he was playing football. Who knew? But someone else who we haven't seen necessarily in action for a little bit is Camila Giorgi, who has resurfaced a year later after kind of mysteriously appearing on the retired list, unannounced. She has popped up in Argentina interviewing Sebastian Baez and some of the players over at the Argentina Open. So we didn't see this coming. She has famously said she does not watch tennis. And if she did, she would only watch men's tennis. So at least she's been slightly true to the fact that she does prefer men's tennis over women's tennis. But I mean,
so she hasn't been put in witness protection or anything like that.
That was the
Or if
theory.
she has, she's not doing a great job of it.
No,
Wasn't
because
she on the run from the tax people?
yeah, she was doing a Shakira. She was indeed. So maybe that's been sorted. But I mean, maybe she didn't disclose her location because you can sort of see where she is, but it is a board. So maybe she wasn't actually on site. It could have been remote.
Well, we'll have to see where she pops up next. Maybe she'll be the subject of kind of a new like Netflix thriller. Where's Camilla Giorgi? She's on the run.
I can
don't
imagine
know.
now Sebastian Baez is getting a knock at the door from the tax authorities being
Have
like,
you seen this woman?
have you seen this woman?
Well, we don't really know what all the ins and outs. We are jesting, aren't we? But yeah, it was nice to see her again in some other capacity. And let's catch up on the WTA Tour events that happened this week. We do have Qatar, the Doha event, 1,000 title, which was won by Amanda Anisimova, winning her very first 1,000 event in her second 1,000 final and having a storming week, really, defeating 6 top 40 opponents, including Jelena Ostapenko in straight sets in the final. I mean, Anisimova, we've seen her reach a semi-final of a Grand Slam before many years ago. It's been a while since we've seen her play this well. She did get to a final last year of a 1,000 in Toronto. But yeah, to come away with the title with some impressive wins under her belt. Chris, how impressive was Anisimova this week in Doha?
I mean, really impressive. I think this is something that, we didn't necessarily think was going to happen for her. This soon in the season. Obviously, she made a final at 1,000 last year. I was genuinely very, very impressed because the conditions I didn't think necessarily favoured her. It's quite gusty, it's quite windy over there, but it seemed like the big hitters did perform really well, with Ostapenko also making the final and Alexandrova also having a deep run. That backhand was on fire from Anisimova. It's such easy power that she's always had. And I think given all of the things that happened in her past, a very tragic passing of her father, and then ultimately that was a huge part of her tennis experience, tennis journey. He was a very big influence on her, which obviously goes without saying. And she took some time away. She did some training at college. She went away and had a life away from tennis, and now she's come back. And a lot of people wouldn't have thought that she would have reached her career high ranking after coming back. But now she's back in the top 20. Well, not back. She's in the top 20 for the first time. And you just think it's such a nice story because she's been through so much and now she's back on top.
Yeah, just a year ago, she was ranked in the 200s and going into Doha, she was 41 in the world. So she's like halved her ranking just by winning this title alone. And I mean, you look at who she beat, she beat Azarenka, let me see, Kostic, Fernandez, Badosa. I mean, these are players who obviously have caliber and have had recent form as well, especially likes of Badosa, for example. And Ostapenko had beaten Iga Swiatek, but quite comfortably, but didn't come up against Anisimova and was able to kind of replicate that. So yeah, really, really impressive from.
She was playing
Anisimova.
qualifying, by the way, qualifying at Wimbledon. She didn't make it to the first round. That's how far she's come since last summer. I mean,
crazy.
it is crazy.
First American player to defeat 6 top 40 opponents since Serena in 2007 as well. So, and there's a lot of American players up there. We know Coco Gauff, Emma Navarro, JPEG. I bet Anisimova's kind of like, that should be me up there. It's kind of my time to kind of come back and get where I should be now I've had that time away. But Joel, how do you think, this tournament, obviously maybe a surprise winner from Anisimova coming in unseeded. Obviously, all eyes were kind of on Iga Swiatek, Sabalenka. Sabalenka fell by the hands of Alexandrova, in that match where the cat appeared. And Swiatek losing to Ostapenko in the semi-finals. We know she doesn't like playing Ostapenko. No. 6-3, 6-1. Tell us a bit more about that one.
Yeah, I mean, Ostapenko is just Swiatek's kryptonite. And I think now, actually, she's the only player to have a winning head-to-head record on the WTA Tour against Iga Swiatek, and it is so conclusive. And I think with Swiatek and that matchup against Ostapenko, the power that Ostapenko plays with, she just doesn't give you that time. I don't think she is there to get into rallies and then wait for that kind of perfect opportunity to hit a winner. If the ball is there to be hit, Ostapenko hits it, and that's why I think we see her play with such a low margin, where she can generate loads of winners, but she can also generate lots of unforced errors. But I do think in that match against Swiatek, she just did not let Swiatek settle, did not give her time to get into the rallies. And I think there were times where I was looking at the Swiatek serve, and the second serve particularly, whether she wasn't really changing it up. It felt like it was a bit predictable at times, and Ostapenko already knew what was coming. And as a result, it just felt like a really easy victory for her. And Chris, you spoke about the conditions as well. I was a bit surprised because I thought, Swiatek, she plays with spin, heavy spin, can have a lot of control. But it was actually Ostapenko who was dealing with the gusty conditions a lot better, even though she has a more of a kind of, strike first power game to her.
I think maybe she just went for broke. I think she really gets fired up about these opportunities when she plays against.
Oh, she loves it, doesn't she?
She does. I think she likes to prove she can beat anyone, but then also go on to lose against anyone. Like she's already out in Dubai, lost to Uchiyama, who's actually ranked 62 in the world, who I think was a qualifier there. So she's gone from a 6-3, 6-1 defeat of Iga Swiatek to losing 3-3. So very Ostapenko-esque, and probably, if you're a Swiatek fan, you're thinking, oh, here she goes again, because, I mean, I don't think that Swiatek would necessarily lose to that opponent. But, I mean, Ostapenko, she really is one of those players where on the day, she can do anything. And I think she said she was expecting to win this. She walked out there with all the confidence like she would. And, I mean,
she's had no form this season, though.
No, but she's 5-0 against Iga Swiatek. You've got to love it.
I think you just sometimes going by the form book does not count. We've seen Sabalenka out in the first round, basically, Anisimova in the final, Ostapenko very up and down. I mean, it's worth noting, I think all the semi-finalists have gone out already in this week's event. So obviously it's taken a lot out of them, and maybe consistency is not going to, be the way forward. But, all credit to Anisimova for walking away with this title. It's her third title overall, but of course, the biggest of her career. Who doesn't want a 1,000 event title? And yeah, just on another note, Elena Rybakina, there was some news around her coach, her ex-coach, Vukov, Stefano Vukov, who's been banned by the WTA. So, Rybakina, she reached the quarterfinals, lost to Swiatek in straight sets, but obviously some aggro going off court with this decision, and she kind of, I think, disagrees with the ban, and yeah, it's been upheld by the WTA. So see a lot of stuff kind of going on for her, outside of the tennis court. Chris, I know you've been following this to some extent. So what's your take on this situation with her ex-coach?
Well, I mean, it's not necessarily a surprise to a lot of people. There have always been reports that maybe it is a bit of a difficult relationship that exists there. He will be missing about a year and a half with this suspension, and they were informed by the chief executive of the WTA Tour on the 31st of January. It is clear that Rybakina has said that she did not raise a complaint. This has not come from her. It's come from people who have witnessed things. So some of the things that's in this summary that they were presented with as to why he was banned was about kind of not being particularly pleasant to her, really, to put as an understatement, calling her sort of stupid, saying if it wasn't for him, she'd still be in Russia picking potatoes. Lots of things like this that I know they believe that this has led to a situation which has made her be seen crying in public and pushing her beyond her physical limits, which they believe caused Rybakina to become ill, and some of the reasons for her absence on the tour. Again, she denies all of this and says that she's never had an issue with anything that's happened. But Archer, who is the chief executive of the WTA Tour, says that we need a safe environment for everyone. And that she thinks that this might be a bit of a toxic relationship that exists. And this is the measures the WTA feel they need to do to keep everyone safe on the tour. So a very difficult situation, not one you'd ever want to see anyone in. And especially considering the fact that Rybakina has so much talent and she is still playing on the tour. And it's going to be tricky to play without your coach, especially because that relationship that she had with Goran has come to a close. So she has got another coach now, and we just have to hope that things will become a bit more stable for her.
Yeah, it's not a nice situation, it seems. All the stuff that went on does go somewhere in explaining what we were kind of seeing from her last year. So we'll await further news and see how she gets on. But yeah, it's not the most pleasant of news stories. Obviously the WTA feeling justified to make that decision based on the evidence that they had. But let's take a quick break now. We'll be back in the second half to discuss Joao Fonseca's first ATP Tour title in Argentina, the US Open's radical move for mixed doubles, and we'll be looking ahead to this week's tournaments in Dubai, Rio and Doha, which will see the return of a certain Novak Djokovic. So do not go anywhere. Welcome back to the Tennis Weekly podcast. And it's time, as always, to kick off the second half with another game. We haven't had this in a while, but we do have a Joel's game bestowed upon us this week.
We have a Joel's game.
Very lucky.
Have a Joel's game. And actually, I've written the answers for anyone watching on video. I've got the Wimbledon book that they gave us.
Well, don't get it wrong. It's in the Wimbledon book, Joel.
It's not. No, right. It is a Joel's game though. For anyone of our listeners who's maybe a bit like, hang on, what is Joel's game? Joel's game is basically higher, lower, or same. With career high rankings of tennis players.
Right.
And I've got, how many have I got here? I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've got 7 names. There are six potential points on offer.
It changes every time we play.
It changes every time,
yeah.
Exactly. But
it's Joel's game. You can do
it's Joel's game, yeah.
You can do what you want, yes. But in this edition, we're going to have a Canada theme. Canada tennis has been doing so well of late. I thought it was a good time to bring up all Canadian tennis players and their career high ranking. So you two are in it together. This is not a face-off, but you're working as a team to see if you can complete Joel's game. And we're going to start with Denis Shapovalov. So I'm looking for his career high ranking. There's no skin in the game just yet. But what do you think his career high ranking is?
I think he hit 10. I think I saw this in the news.
Because he won, obviously, a title recently, and then it came up as part of that. I think 10, yeah.
I think 10 is the number, because I remember thinking, he's made top 10. But I mean,
and I think that's why Joel's chosen him.
This is a starting.
Oh, because it's too obvious. Okay, we'll say 10 then.
You're absolutely bang on. He career high ranking number 10. Yes, so we're going to start there. That is your marker. The first player I'm going to give you, so higher, lower, or same, Leylah Fernandez.
I don't think she's been top 10.
No,
because Raducanu scraped into top 10 at number 10, and she won the US Open.
She won, not the final. I think lower, but what we're saying, probably about 14, 15 maybe. I guess
in the teens, but not lower.
It's lower, correct. answer, but not as low as Chris you might be thinking.
Oh,
13 is her
13.
career
Oh, okay.
high ranking.
Well,
So
Kim,
not too
wonderful.
far
You're
off.
way better than me at this.
Right. Okay. So that's one point, one correct answer. The next player I'm going to give you is Bianca Andreescu.
Oh, she's been way
Well,
higher.
Hasn't she been sort of 4? in
I
the
would say
world?
she's been up as high as 4. She did have
so
some
much
injuries,
higher.
but definitely higher, maybe 3 or 4.
Happy to
So
go with that.
higher?
Yep.
Yes.
Correct. Yes. Bianca Andreescu has been higher, and she has been as high as number 4.
Kim,
So
100%
very-
record so
Nailed
far.
it.
Well done. Mhm. So that is 2 correct answers. Right, we're gonna get a bit trickier now. So Bianca Andreescu, that's your new marker, number 4. Eugenie Bouchard.
I think she's
Surely
been
lower. I think
top
she's been about
5.
7. Oh, has she been top 5, do you think?
Well,
I'd
she had
say
that
sort of
season.
7,
She had that
6.
wonderful season, didn't she?
Higher,
Wimbledon
lower,
final,
or
yeah.
same?
But didn't she make semi-final, semi-final, final in one season?
I would still say it's probably a bit lower than Andreescu.
I'm
But it
almost
could just be like
I'm almost
5,
convinced it's
yeah.
number 5.
Yeah, so should we say just lower?
We're risking it. Yeah. I don't think she's
Should we
been top
risk it?
3. We're gonna say yeah.
Yeah.
Lower?
Lower, number 5.
Not same?
You never do a same. I'm never falling into that trap.
Don't con us, Joel.
No, we don't believe you.
It's correct. Lower is right. And Chris, you're bang on. Number 5. Career high ranking.
It's a team effort.
Very well done. Okay, so that is 3 correct answers. Next player, Felix Auger-Aliassime.
I don't think he's been top
He's not
5.
no, so it's got to be lower.
I was thinking 6 or 7.
I think 8 or 9. But yeah,
Either way, we're
definitely
going
not
lower.
5. Yeah, lower, please, Joel.
That is correct. Yes, Felix Auger-Aliassime hasn't cracked the top 5. His career high ranking, number 6.
Oh,
Ooh.
okay. Very
So
close.
there we go. Right. Okay.
I feel like we're doing quite well considering how close this is. This is actually quite tight.
Okay, moving on to the next one. Milos Raonic.
Oh, I think he's been number
Ooh.
3.
Do you think when he got to the Wimbledon final around
Or am
that
I losing
era?
my mind?
I would have said around 5 or 6 myself, but
Oof.
if your gut feeling says 3, I'm happy to go with that.
But aren't we at 6
Higher,
though?
lower,
We're already at 6 at
same.
the
Oh,
moment.
so
You're at
who
6
was
at
who
the
was the
moment.
last one? Felix.
Felix.
So-
My gut said 3, but also I don't think he's been low. I
Has
think
he
he's
been seeded though, 3 or 4 for a slam? I don't think he would have been in the top 4 seedings because he still would have been around when Rafa and Novak.
I'm
You're
going to have
gonna
to push
okay.
you
And
for an
Andy.
answer.
I think.
I think go with me, Kim.
Okay, I'll trust you.
I honestly feel like in
Trouble
lockdown
in
when he
the
was playing at the
team.
US Open, I was watching a
Trouble
lot of
in
his
the
matches
team.
that year.
So we're going
I
higher.
can't remember lockdown, but yes.
Why am I talking about
let's-
that? Yes. But okay, too much faith has been put in me, but I think we're going to say, are we saying higher? Number 3?
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
go for it.
Oh,
Tension.
That is a correct answer. Yes,
Oh,
Chris, you were
well done.
bang on. Number 3.
Wow.
Something came over me.
High ranking. Right. Okay. You have got 5 correct answers. This is the final one. This is the one to complete.
have we
Joel's
won it
game.
before? I think we
you
have
have.
maybe
so,
once.
I think you have
yeah.
won it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Pretty sure we have.
Just trying to gauge how excited
This
to be.
is the final one. And this player was born in Canada but represented France as a little caveat. Mary Pierce. Mary Pierce.
I'm sorry, how is this the
Higher,
Canada-themed question?
Lower or same? She was born in Montreal. She's French-Canadian.
Ooh,
I think something
Higher,
along the
lower,
lines
or
of
same.
could be the same.
I think same. I think he might have finally done it.
I think he's thrown in a same at the very end.
It feels so Joel-coded that he's actually had to search for a player who was born in Canada because he couldn't find someone else with a number 3 ranking. That's what I'm thinking. Should we just say same? Why not?
Let's go same. I think she's got to have been right up there.
She's won slams.
Mm.
Final answer? Same?
Oh, he's
Yeah.
teasing us. Yes, let's do it.
If you had said to me higher, it would have been an incorrect answer.
Oh.
If you had said lower, it would have been an incorrect answer. It was same. It was same.
Amazing.
Number 3 in
That's-
the world career high ranking for Mary Pierce. Yes.
I mean,
Born in Montreal. Yeah, I was really trying to find a same. So Chris, you got me there. But
what about Gabby Dabrowski? Or she been number 2?
yeah,
Maybe.
maybe
Singles only. I thought.
Oh, singles only. Yeah,
you
that
gotta
was a
define the
caveat. Yes.
parameters of the
Good game, Joel. You're very inventive with that
It's
final
tough.
one.
Yeah, it's tough.
Thanks,
It's
Joel.
tough.
Well
Yeah.
done, Chris.
It's tough
Well
to get
played.
the high
Yes.
low. Like, ooh, is it? Isn't
We
it?
did spend a lot of time in the top 10, which normally when we go to the pub and play this game, Joel, we do
Yeah.
tend to jump around a bit more.
Well, next time we can do ones in the 200s. That'll be really difficult. Thanks, Joel. Let's look at what's in our mailbag for this week, because George got in touch with us via email with a question about the US Open mixed doubles. So thanks very much for getting in touch. I always love to hear from everyone with their questions. So the US Open have announced this week a radical shake-up for the mixed doubles event at this year's event in Flushing Meadows. Among the changes, they are moving the mixed doubles to the Fan Week. It's going to be held across 2 days, and they are holding a best of 3 sets to 4 games format and having entry into the event based on singles rankings. So George says that he agrees that mixed doubles is in need of a change, but he's astounded by the way the US Open have gone about it. What do we think, and how would we have improved the mixed doubles at Grand Slams generally? Yeah, this was in the news. I'm glad George has picked up on it as well, because it's quite different. It's not even going to be in the main week, and it's all happening over 2 days. I mean, I don't know. Is this right?
It's like an exhibition.
It feels
does
like
feel like a kid's
tie break
thing.
tens.
Less of an
Yeah.
exhibition.
Yeah, like where's the heritage and the history, and are they sort of
Where
I
are
don't
the
know, just
doubles
dropping
players?
all of that?
No
Yeah,
doubles
I mean,
players
is
to be
this-
found.
Is this just to get singles players to do it as a bit of a warm up?
Well, it
Is
does
that what you
say that
think,
it's based on your
Chris?
combined singles ranking. So
Hmm.
good luck to Sara Irani, who won it last year, having the chance to defend her title,
Yeah.
which she won with Vavasori, who actually put out a statement saying, this is purely for profit, they believe, as opposed to being for anything else or for logic. And I think a lot of people have retweeted what they posted. They're quite kind of heartbroken by this. And a lot of doubles players think it kind of makes them be seen as less than very much because of the fact that they won't get to necessarily play in this, and it will become an exhibition during a week when the tournament isn't on. I mean, we've complained about Wednesday finishes for the mixed doubles, feeling like it should have a bigger stage. I mean, this is having fan week, so I'm fine with it being an exhibition, but I really would have an issue, and I do take umbrage with the fact that this would count as a Grand Slam title.
Yeah, and then it's a $1 million prize. It seems like they're upping the prize money, I guess, as well, in order to get, I guess, to lure the singles players in as well. But the mix of the doubles players, obviously, this is like their bread and butter, along with obviously the women's and men's doubles. It's denying them the opportunity to get that extra bit of money, which doubles players do not make as much as singles players generally. If you're at the top of the game in each tour, you're going to earn more as a singles player at the top than the doubles. So it just seems, you're just taking more opportunities away from the players who arguably need the funds more, perhaps, and just dishing
What about the
them
other
out to the
slams,
singles.
like Wimbledon? What must they think of this? Because this is so different to have such big disparity between what counts as a slam.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. I mean, the Australian Open have already come out and said that they're not going to be changing anything. I can't necessarily see Wimbledon doing the same, especially so almost like last minute. I mean, this feels, this almost feels like it came out of the blue. I mean, the one thing I wanted to say was just to play devil's advocate. We know that we've heard and seen in the news that, doubles is struggling, and there has needed to be kind of a change up to help get more appeal to doubles and to mixed doubles. As a result of that, do you feel like it needed as radical a shake-up as this in order to actually create change and gets, yes, it has divided opinion, but, change is never kind of a smooth sailing operation. And actually, is there an argument to say creating something as divisive as this, actually, it could be a positive step forward for the doubles format?
Ooh, that's a big question. I think when it comes down to it, if it was more similar to the mixed doubles at the Olympics, I could get on board. I think they do use combined rankings there for singles and doubles. I think that's probably one of my biggest issues with it, as well as this sort of the change in format to, best out of four, first to four games. I think that's also quite strange, but it's not that far of a stretch considering the next gen is played like that. So I think it could make it more exciting, could make it quicker to watch. I do think there is something in it from that respect, but that's really me stretching it because putting it in fan week as well. I mean, fan week doesn't say tournament week, does it? It's almost like paying the players to play what was last year Mixed Madness, which was an event that happened where a lot of the players did play that event. It was a lot of fun. And clearly this is a way to get people to watch the tennis for 3 weeks as opposed to watch it, or well, not 3 weeks, it's only over a couple of days, but you know what I mean with that. I think
it's almost like they shouldn't really be referencing it as fan week because it does feel like we're getting more and more to a point where Grand Slams see it as a festival. They see it as like a 3-week main event. And maybe I would have less of an issue of it if we just sort of maybe, in the future accepted as Grand Slams, they're going to be 3 weeks instead of 2 weeks. The only thing I would say maybe I could see about the fan week is it would put the spotlight, I guess, on the mixed doubles where, if it was
mixed play, not necessarily the mixed doubles that we know.
Well, yeah, but it will be less cluttered. There won't be singles going on. And it will be in Arthur Ashe and Louis Armstrong, so it will be on the big court. So there will be a genuine spotlight there. So I could sort of buy again it sort of being in that starter week. But as you said, like for me, the format of it just makes it feel like it's watered down, an exhibition. How can you even take these titles how can you take these titles seriously compared to the blood, sweat, tears that the other doubles teams have put in the past to achieve their glory?
It doesn't sit in the history books in quite the same way. But I
maybe
do
it sits
agree.
better
It
on
does
ESPN.
it gives more of a spotlight on it. But how many people are tuning in before it's actually kicked off? Is it really gonna? I'd still rather see a good mixed doubles final on the day of like a singles final on the final weekend and get it the proper kind of prestige that it deserves. And it has annoyed me that at Grand Slams they've sort of made it earlier in that second week over the last few years, and this seems to just be going the other end of the scale. So George, I hope that answers your question somewhat. I guess there's no perfect answer for what we would do, but we're not maybe the keenest of fans on this one. So maybe give it a bit more thought, and if this doesn't work, I guess they can always backtrack and go back to normal, and there'll just be a bit of an asterisk in the list of champions.
When you see the list, some very, very big names won it that year.
Maybe Rafa can come out of retirement.
He could do 4 games, I'm sure.
Slam,
Andy Murray.
Absolutely.
Ooh, maybe Murray would.
Djokovic will want a mixed double slam, maybe.
Well, Fernando Verdasco's doing it.
Yeah.
Well, we'll get on to that in a bit, actually. Now you mentioned Djokovic and Verdasco in the doubles, because we've still got some events to catch up with recently, which is on the Golden Swing. We've got the Buenos Aires event that took place, which Joao Fonseca won. So the young Brazilian, one of the rising stars and names to watch, he beat Francisco Cerundolo in the final in straight sets to win his first title and become the youngest South American to win a title in the in the sort of modern open era since 1990, since the ATP officially began. He's having a really, sharp rise up the rankings. I think it's fair to say he was a year ago down at 648 in the world, and he is winning titles now. So it's been fantastic to see. Chris, I know you picked out Fonseca as your kind of rising talent of the year. So how pleased are you that he's won this title?
I think it's great. I think we talked about the fact it felt like there was this new generation that were actually kicking on. We talked about how excited we were for this generation, and they're actually doing fantastic things on the tour in multiple events this week. Fonseca is such a fun player to watch as well. He hits really big off both wings, and he really enjoys playing tennis. He said his dream job is playing tennis. He gets to do it every day. It's not about the money. We're saying that at the moment, but he is 18, so maybe that will change. But fantastic the way he came through this, and particularly against Navone, because he was down match points and he hit some big shots to get out of trouble there. And I think that just gives you a great indication that he is someone who is going to go after it, and is going to go down playing the game that he knows and not necessarily go for plan B. And I really like that about him. It's a real sign of kind of a maturity in that sense, that he's going to stick to his plan. And I mean, he beat Rublev at the AO, so he's had a pretty good start to the year.
He's just swatted away Argentinians in their own backyard.
And he's Brazilian. I know.
Like,
in Rio, he'll return the favour.
No, I mean, Argentinian wildcard in the first round, Navone, and then Cerundolo. He's had a great run, and I'd be very interested to see how he goes at the French Open later in the year if he can keep this sort of form up.
I mean, he is the first player born in 2006 to win an ATP title. Doesn't that make you feel old?
Wow. It actually does.
I could be his mother.
I think I could be his father as well.
Wow. The podcast has entered a new era.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, when you're sort of a tennis fan, you look at players, they're sort of our age, and you're kind of in your 20s, and now everyone's like younger.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't won an ATP 250, have we? No.
No, but we'll look forward to seeing what Fonseca does the rest of the Golden Swing and the rest of the year. Out in Marseille, we had an indoor hard event, 250, where Ugo Humbert defended his title, beating Medjedovic in straight sets in the final. This is sort of classic Humbert territory. I think he's really comfortable indoor hard at home. He's won this title before, got to the Paris final last year, won in Metz. He just loves an indoor hard court, doesn't he?
And in France, at home, it seems to be like the perfect environment for him. No real surprises.
Didn't drop a set.
Yeah.
I mean, Medvedev losing to Medjedovic, to two Meds there, that was probably the main surprise of the whole week, I would say. But yeah, I mean, Medvedev's not really been at the races of late, has he? He's not the Medvedev that we're used to seeing, perhaps. But yeah, Humbert, a very worthy winner, I think it's fair to say, at home in Marseille. And last but not least, Kekmanovic won in Delray Beach, coming from a set down to beat Alejandro Davidovich Fokina.
This was brutal.
Poor Fokina. He's
still not won an ATP Tour title. I didn't realise he'd not won an ATP Tour title, and how close
doesn't have the temperament. Painful.
Yeah.
5-2 up he was in that final set. Kekmanovic coming back to win the last 5 games, and saving 2 match points. It's really tough for Davidovich Fokina. He just kind of chokes at the key moments.
A Focky implosion. Yeah.
Oh, sounds a bit rude, Chris. I think we're better move on.
Sorry, no, didn't mean it like that.
But great for Kekmanovic. His first title since Kitzbühel in 2020. So it's been a while he's had to wait between titles. But fair play to him. And ADF will hopefully get over the finish line at one point in the future. And bit interesting, no American winning the title here. It was full of Americans in the draw, but none of them even getting to the final. So
yeah, Taylor Fritz still not having a good time of it, is he?
No, not at all. We'll see how he can pick himself out of that one. Let's look at what is happening this week then. We've got Dubai for the women, the WTA 1000 event, where Sabalenka and Swiatek are the top 2 seeds. As we said earlier, Ostapenko's already out as one of the casualties early on, who did well last week. So it'd be interesting to see if there's any players who are able to kind of keep consistent results across both events. And we'll see if Sabalenka and Swiatek can do a little bit better this week as well. Any thoughts on this one and who's in the draw? Any matchups you're looking forward to?
Raducanu's broken the losing streak. She came through quite impressively against Maria Sakkari. That was one of the better performances I've seen from her. So hopefully she'll be able to kind of put it together. She plays Mukova, so that will be very entertaining and quite a big challenge. But it's a bit strange, isn't it, having 2 1000s that are 1 week in consecutive weeks. It almost seems like you can't play well at both of them. So I'm kind of thinking the players that didn't do well last week might do well this week.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a fair point. And out in Rio, we mentioned earlier, we've got the the Rio Open in Brazil. which is part of the Golden Swing. And Sasha Zverev is headlining this one with Musetti as the second seed. So, well, we'll see if any of the other sort of usual Golden Swingers can, get a title, or if Fonseca is maybe going to...
Fonseca in front of his home crowd this time.
Continue to do.
He's going to lose to an Argentinian, isn't he?
And who is he playing? He's a French player first, but he could play Etcheverry in the next round. So maybe that's the prophecy that you're predicting, Joel.
Yeah.
And possibly a rematch of the final in Buenos Aires in the quarterfinal with Cerundolo, perhaps.
It happens a lot, doesn't it, the Golden Swing? The same players play both, and one it counts as 250 and one counts as 500, but the results are different.
And Carlos Alcaraz is not playing for Everton. He's the top seed in Doha this week. So he's going back to the tennis court. And Alex de Minaur, second seed here. So this is obviously a 500 event on the courts of Doha. Biggest shock, though, ahead of this tournament is that Novak Djokovic is back. We thought he was going to be out till the clay.
He's playing the singles and the doubles.
He's
did
back
not see this
bang.
coming. Yeah.
Crazy.
We look a bit silly, don't we?
Yeah.
We've seen miracles before, but yeah, this is it. And he's got Berrettini in the first round, so that's quite an interesting opener for him. But perhaps more interestingly of all is he's playing doubles with Fernando Verdasco, who hasn't officially retired but is retiring at this event.
That was news to me that he hasn't retired at 41. He's really going strong. I'm not sure he's playing quite as much on the professional circuit.
Well, they've won today, so it's not the shots keep on coming.
They could be. Well, I was going to say they could be mixed doubles, but they can't because they're both men. But
what if Djokovic wins a title in doubles before a title in singles? Because currently he's titleless. That would be quite a surprise.
2025.
Yeah, and 2024.
I'd be happy with that. Yeah, I think they're quite a good partnership, and I like a bit of Verdasco. It'll be sad to see him go, even though I thought we already had done. But
we'll mourn him again.
Sad to see him officially go.
And Jack Draper also in the draw. He defeated Popperin today in straight sets.
Good win.
So it's a great result.
Good result for him. Yeah, interesting to see how he does.
Absolutely.
Could face Djokovic in the quarters.
Ooh, that would be interesting.
Yeah, that would be
Not
tasty.
Novak coming back. Yeah, Jack, maybe he's up for the taking. Yeah, we'll see about that one. But that pretty much wraps us up for this week. Quite a flurry of tournaments have happened. Quite a flurry happening this week. Lots of, fallout from the Sinner news. Perhaps that will keep coming through over the coming days as well. And then I'm sure he'll be back on tour before we know it. Time seems to fly by.
Yes, that wraps it up for our latest tour catch-up here at Tennis Weekly HQ. We hope you have, as always, enjoyed the ride with us. Remember to subscribe to us so you don't miss a moment of the ATP and WTA action. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and all your favourite podcasting platforms out there.
And if you love what you're hearing, then be sure to leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And also hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube.
Yes, and the Sinner episode is also on YouTube if you'd like to watch that, as well as lots of clips on our social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and X, and the handle for all of those is Tennis Weekly Pod. And if you'd like to get in touch with us with the show, drop us a mailbag. That's at tennisweeklypod@gmail.com, or visit our website, tennisweekly.co.uk.
And we'll be back next Monday for another tour catch-up. But until then, as always, it's goodbye from Kim.
Goodbye.
It's goodbye from Chris.
Goodbye.
And it's goodbye from me. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time on Tennis Weekly.